This shiur is taking place on Yom Shlishi, Yom Shlishi, Tes Iyar, in the late afternoon close to Iyar Toshin Ein Beit. All right. So we saw that there were two levels in Yiras Hashem, and we saw that the generality of fear or awe for the Eivester is the shoyresh and the source in Avodas Hashem of the keeping in a meaningful way the 635 negative commandments. As we saw, that's like the highest in the inner meaning of one's keeping the 365 commandments. Now we saw that there were two ways that Yura can express itself. The one we saw was a Yura Pshuta Yoter, but that would correspond with what we call later in Tanya the lower level in Yura Tatorah. And we saw that the person there knows that he's the subject of a infinitesimal king, an unbelievably great king, Melech Malchei, and he feels the necessity of giving away his will to the will of the great king, to which he is so subservient and so what you might call meaningless a servant of the great Melech Malchei Amlochim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Therefore he has fear to rebel against him, because doing a mitzvah loisase, as we pointed out, is a form of rebellion, as compared to when you don't keep a positive commandment, then you didn't rebel against the king, you just didn't do what he asked, which is a form of in an indirect way, a rebellion. But when you do what he said not to do, and you are nonetheless come along and do it, then that's a direct a rebellion and a direct confrontation with his will. This type of yira has in mind a profound fear and holding back from doing such a thing, being aware of the intense state of subjectivity to the great king that a person is, that a yid, that a klal is. That's the first type of yira. Therefore he doesn't want to do anything that could be in any way interpreted as in having gone against the king, meaning going against his will, and therefore impinging on his whole relationship as a subject to the king. That was the first part of it. Then the second form of yira, of fear and awe of Hashem, we saw was described as a more inward and pneumius form of yira, and we said that expressed itself in a feeling of complete shame and retreat into the self, a feeling of complete almost not being there, or if you were aware of your being there, really the very fact that you're there is like a shameful thing. It's like something that halavai that you'd be able to hide being there. Better help me pick up this phone. That's for me to lean the same on. Since you were so Torah to do it, then I'll use it. So the more inward form of fear is what his very existence is like a shameful thing, and therefore he is his fear expresses himself in the feeling that the Einei Kvedei, the eyes of the great glory of Hashem, are looking at him in a direct way, and he's under, as it were, the direct visual observation of Hashem the whole time. And therefore, that carries with it also a realization of the greatness of Hashem. It's also connected. And therefore, he's ashamed of that greatness in the way that it expresses itself to him in the form of a direct observation. And it's like There's an old saying that once upon a time, the Hasidim, when a genuine Rebbe appeared in the shul or the Beis Knesset or wherever it was, they would run and hide under the benches, and they didn't want the Rebbe to look at them because they knew what they knew what his eyes might see, things that was better that they didn't want to be seen. They were ashamed, and even if they were pure in their behavior, they just felt that their Matthias was a sort of a shameful thing, which is a very good module for the whole idea the author is expressing here. And I can only say in a vernacular way, even though it's not vernacular at all, but in a sort of a more broadened horizon, that the feeling, you had a feeling very similar to this when you waited in line outside the Rebbe's door to go into your chippas. You had this tremendous fear of your own Matthias. How can you appear in front of the Rebbe's eyes? How are you going to do that? It was like an unbelievable kasha that you had. How am I going to be able to appear in front of the Rebbe? It's a shameful thing. It was this sort of last minute panic. Maybe I'll just get out of here quick. I won't have to go. I won't have to put the Rebbe to the whole thing. And so it was a very similar type of India to what the author means here on a higher level, of course, on a deeper level. But it's not all like incomparably different, because tzaddikim doimim lebeirah, as it's written in the Medrash. Genuine tzaddik is like comparable to Hashem. So the type of feeling you feel legabi a genuine tzaddik is also comparable to what you feel legabi Hashem. But the feeling was that just the fact you're there is like a shameful thing. Me, he's going to look at who am I? Well, I have absolutely no place. You know what I mean? It's like having lost the whole sense of being any meaningful entity. And that's a nakuda of not wanting to defy the glory of his vision upon you. Just by being what you are, it's like a sort of a defiance. It's almost like pushing yourself in where you have no place. So therefore, he said he's of the last says hora be'eno. How much more so? It's almost like a kal v'chomer to do that which is evil in his eyes, just to be there, just to be. There's like a feeling of shame in the front of the Einei Kveda of Hashem, but to actually defy him and do anything which would be ra be'eno, then that would be like the most ultimate terrible and completely dismissible thing that could be imagined. So therefore he says to do. Now we have to assume here that since we're talking about a person on a high level here, a high level of awareness of divinity, that what he means last says hora be'enei Hashem. We're not talking about some terrible aveda or something, or some terrible transgression openly against the Torah or things of that nature. Now we're talking about obviously about delicate things and thoughts even and things of that nature, which ultimately speaking, they're not what Hashem wants. If they're not what he wants, then they have the status of being ra. Now that's what we're going to have to examine now, because he uses a very interesting expression, the Alter Rebbe. Kol, he said, what is ra b'einei Hashem? He says, kol toyevas Hashem. Every abomination of the Eibishter. Every abomination. Now that's a very, very strong word. And the word toyevo is probably one of the most strong words for a repulsive thing that you can use. But therefore it's only used in one or two places in the Torah, like there be certain forbidden acts or entities. It's used the word toeva. Only in 2 or 3 places we actually use that expression. One of them is, by the way, homosexual business. That's called a toeva, one of the few places in the Torah where that word is used. That's just by the way, there's a lot to be said about that. Anyway, it says, Allah says, to do that which would be evil in front of those eyes which are looking at you and observing you and taking you in, so being mavatli your whole Matthias, and that would lead you to realize that anything which is evil in his eyes, in other words, it may not be evil so much in the eyes of the world, it may not be quite understandable, but it's evil in his eyes. Then he said that's called te'evas. That is the absolute abomination of Hashem asher sona. What the Abish hated that. The Abish hates that. Now once again, a tremendously strong word. To hate is a very strong word. Very little used in Lashon Kodesh. And so the Alter Rebbe says, no, what you're frightened of doing is anything which is Rabbi Einov, in these infinitesimal eyes which are watching you the whole time, anything which would be undesirable in those eyes, well, that is an abomination. It's called To'evas Hashem Asher Sona, what the Eibusha has hated. And he said, what are they? He said, Heim HaKlippos v'Sitra Achra. They are the klippos, meaning the things which are opposite Hashem's will, and the Sitra Achra, the other way of doing things, like the Sitra Achra can be taken meaning the other side of the street, where you avoid Hashem and you go onto your side. You want to do things the way the world does. The Sitra Achra, the other side, altogether. Asher Yanikosom Miha'odam Atachtem, what their nurturement, the klippos and the Sitra Achra have a way of gaining nurturement. Miha'odam Atachtem, from the lower man, how he is down here, from the lower man, Achizosam boy, and their hold upon him, their grasp on him, Hu b'shasor mitzvahs leisaseh. It is in the medium and through the medium of the 635 negative commandments. So there's a lot of phraseology here, which, once again, usually in Tanya the Alter Rebbe is very, very brief. Whatever needs to be said, he says just in one word or two. And here we see a whole sentence of doing the evil in his eyes, and that's the To'evas Hashem Asher Sona, which the Abish is hated. And what does it mean? The Abish hate something. And those are the klippos and the Sitra Achra. And he said they have a nurturement from you as an Odom down here, a lower Odom, and they also grasp you. They can have a hold on you through these 365 negative commandments. Now we have to assume that the 365 negative commandments also have many halachas connected with them, and a more edel dinim, not just the actual Issa itself, but delicate things which come out of that and connected with, like we said, we may be talking about a delicate form of evil, a more, what we might call dakus type of evil. Nonetheless, why would we use such tremendous expressions? So we could say in that two explanations. One explanation we could say is that if you're in a state where Hashem is looking at you, feel the divine eyes staring at you, and you're under this infinitesimal gaze of Hashem, then anything which is not correct gains a tremendously more massive dimension in your eyes than what it would by a more simple person or somebody who considers himself in a more simple situation. But since you've reached such a high level, then anything to do with these so-called klippos and these Sitra Achras, they would appear to be tremendously massive in the eyes of somebody holding on such a level. Therefore he goes out, he says the Alter is to'evas, it's an abomination, because it's, it's klippos of a Sitra Achra, and we're holding on such a bittul, Hashem is gazing at it, and therefore it's to'eva, it's a terrible abomination. We have to completely get rid of it. And he said, for what? For Hashem hates it, we can't possibly do something which he would, it's so against him that we can describe him as hating. However, we have to look a little bit careful at this expression. He says, Me'ha'odam atachtoin, from the lower Odom. Then the unique of these klippos from the lower Odom is from mitzvahs leisaseh, which would imply that there's a higher Odom hatachtoin, that's that way. But it would imply that by the higher Odom it goes slightly differently, and meaning that these things were created by the Eivus. They begin having their nurturement from Hashem, and Hashem is the higher Odom, the Odom ha'elyon, as we know. So that would tend to imply that down here it's from the klippos and the Sitra Achra just being what they are, doing what they are. Yeah, they have their hold on you, and they grasp you in a way, and they suck from the kedusha, they suck from you and your neshama. And he said they are called to'eva abomination which Hashem has hated. So now, where does the Alter Rebbe say in Tanya where the Eibusher, the Odom Elyon, relates to these things? He says in Perek Kuf Beit, in chapter 22, there the Alter Rebbe says, how betrothed do you get that the Eibusher creates Sitra Achra? How does he create a thing which he doesn't want? It's something he's so profoundly against it. Why would he create it? So he says over there, the Eibusher only creates these inyanim to try you out. He does it in order that we should be given bechira, and he wants to see what we're going to do. We're going to go that way or that way. Therefore, he builds up a tremendous case for the other side, as well as for the side of the kedusha, and you're like in the middle. You've got to choose. And he says over there, over there, the Alter Rebbe says a very basic thing. He said, what is it that Hashem creates all the good things and the holy things in this world? What is the implication of that? He said the implication of that is the word will, ratzon. And what is ratzon? Ratzon is something you want. What does want mean? Want means that's your pneumius. That's what you see to be your inner aim, is your will. And therefore, that which is everything positive, good, and mitzvahs, and all those things that Hashem does in the good way, in Kedusha, well, that's literally Hashem's will, meaning that's Hashem's pneumius, and that's where he is, and that's with what he, as it were, affiliates. Hashem joins up with it and is part of it. So that's called Ratzon. That's called Ponim. That's called Hashem's face, as it were, because your Ratzon and your Ponim go together. What you really want, that's how you turn your face. So this is the Alter Rebbe of something you don't really want. You don't really want it. But it has to be there for some purpose that you have. So he said, what do you do then? He said, you give it like a man throws over the back of his shoulder. And he throws to a makabel on the back of his shoulder, but he can't look at that makabel. He can't look him in the face. And the reason he can't look him in the face is he doesn't really mean him. He doesn't mean him to be there. The only reason he means him to be there is because he wants you to have a choice. That's the whole reason why he wants that to be there. And however, that follows that's the opposite of ratzon. The opposite of what your inner will implies. Yeah. So the Alter Rebbe said that's called sinner. Something that you don't really want. Your whole inner pneumius and your whole inwardness represented by the powerfulness of your will, well, that's your inwardness, that's your pneumius. That's called love also. That's called being mekarev something. That's what he used the expression over there, the Alter Rebbe, the karev. Kedusha is everything which Hashem has brought close to him. That's what he doesn't really want, yeah? But that's not what he doesn't want. That's not his will, Beklal. It's only a will. If it's not his will, then what's it doing there? It is his will, but it's his will in the sense he doesn't really want it. He wants it in order to get to an aim, which is to try you. And that's called sinner. Something that you don't really want to be there, because it's not really you, and it doesn't express your will. Well, that's called sinner. That's called hate. That's called hate. Hashem doesn't want all he created them, and he brought them all there, and he put them all there. That's how they come about from the Odom Ha'elyon. The Odom Ha'elyon brought them all there, and he put them all there, and he makes them in such a way that if you get involved with them, then you being an Odom HaTachton, you didn't make them, and you're not all omnipotent, and you're not omnipresent. You're just a little weak human being who has used your bechira the wrong way. Oh, if that's the case, then you've fallen into the hands of something which is ultimately an abomination. Ultimately, it's an abomination, because Hashem doesn't really want it. That was not his will. So the Alter Rebbe says in another minor that I saw not long ago, that if you don't really want something, then that means you hate it. Hate is the siduk of your ratzon. It's the removal of your ratzon altogether. And therefore, it just doesn't go that thing. It has no place in your whole plan. If it has no place in your whole plan, then it's something you hate. That's the concept of hate. That's what the Alter Rebbe says here, that the grasp of the Toyevus Hashem Asher Sona, the abominations, and everything which he Hashem doesn't really mean at all. He doesn't want that. That's not what he meant at all. Well, therefore he hates it. Yeah, he hates it. He said, their grasp on you is in clippers and sitrach. Now, what does it mean, clippers and sitrach? Let's just think for a minute. The word clipper means a skin, an outer skin. Once again, not what we meant. We meant the outer skin only for a certain purpose. Once again, it had to guard the fruit, otherwise the insects would have got it, otherwise the sun would have burned it away to nothing. Had to have a skin. But we didn't mean the skin. We mean that ultimately the fruit inside, that's what's important. The skin is of no importance. So therefore, it's like Hashem hated it. There's no place, ultimately. It's only got a practical purpose. And therefore, anything in life which presents itself to you in a way that it's not really the Ratzon Hashem, it's just something that you are doing out of your surfaceness, out of your just running after the taivas of the world, running after the the hoo-ha of the world. Well, that's called a klippa. It's not what we really mean. It could be that it had to be there for a certain purpose. That's not why Hashem put you down in the world. And therefore, you're running after a skin, after a surface thing. Hashem looks down and he says, "Wow, look at this. I created this guy, and I invested so much in him, and I've made all the worlds, and here he is." It's like you make a huge exhibition of some amazing thing that the world has produced, and it's unbelievable what it represents. And at the same time, in the exhibition, there's a little piece of a tchotchke and a thing which is gorgeous, but it also happens to be there on the stand, right? And you would come up to this unbelievable exhibition, when you would run over and embrace this little nothing, and say, "Oh, this is the exhibition. This is wonderful," and you would just miss. You wouldn't see almost the most unbelievable exhibition with the world has made. And then so Rebbe come and said, "This guy's not normal." And the people who made the exhibition would ultimately hate him, because he's ruining their whole purpose in the exhibition. He drew other people to that. We see that from there that sinor is the opposite of the real meaning, the real Ratzon, what Hashem really meant. And if you get involved in klippers, then you ultimately pinch on that feeling, as it were, of Hashem, of his intense not really wanting that, and his intense disappointment of that. That's sin. That's hate. That's called hate. And he said the other way that you can get into this sort of thing is sitra achra. Now, sitra achra is slightly more delicate, we could say. The sitra achra is that you say, "Look, I'm going down this side of the street, and I believe this to be the sunny side of the street. This is the right side of it. This is the way we're supposed to be going." And what do you say? You say, for example, about money. Yeah, you say, "Oh, that money's mine. I worked hard for it. Yeah, that I sweated and I toiled, and that's my money. I know what I'm supposed to do with my money." What does Hashem say? Hashem says, "Oh, man, that's not your money. I put that bit of money in your direction in order that you should give it away. You should give it to the doctor. You should do other things with it. If you need it for yourself for certain things, I don't know. Well, first of all, give it all away. What you need, essentially for yourself, maybe you can use as long as you use it the right way. Oh, it's not yours. It's not yours. It's Malveh Hashem. Hashem has lent it to you. That's called sitra. In Mamela, we find all sorts of examples of that. For example, it comes to human relationships. So a person will say, "Oh yes, I really love this guy. He's really great." Well, why do you really love this guy? Because he does you all sorts of good things that you would like to be done for you. Yeah. But you don't really love him. You're not really devoted to him. And if he steps on your toe one day, you'll be quite happy to part ways with him. Yeah. In other words, that's called the other side of the street. It's not the sunny right-hand side of the street. It's the other side of the street. And that's what leads you into Raha, where you become involved in looking at the other side of the street. You go for the surface point of the thing. You don't go for the inner meaning of what Hashem meant with it. And you don't do it the way Hashem really intended, clippers, and you go on the wrong side of the street. Well, that leads you into the Shasor Elois. The next thing is, you're going to be falling into doing all sorts of things which are not helping to at all. Negative commandments here. And like it's well known, the famous, why is it that a shogeg, a person who did something unwittingly, also has to have a golus? He's got to go into golus, and he's got to have other things, because that's the beginning of the fact that happened to him is a sign that he's on the way, chas v'sholom, to ultimately doing something very terrible in the wrong way. And so it's better to stop him now and get him thinking and try and save him. And by saying to him to golus, we hope he'll have time to think it over and he'll ripen the situation. That's the whole idea of golus. And that's the whole idea of the Oria Mikla, the cities of refuge involved. And we see then that if you grasp the outward value of things, and you don't go according to what is the rotzen of Hashem, and the rotzen of Hashem is Hashem's interest in the matter, kavyochol. That what he's not his interest in. He hates it, and ultimately we have to say Hashem hates it. That's not what he meant. It was not what he meant, and what he's drawing Hashem a corporate. You start messing around with something that he didn't mean that to say. He didn't mean it. He looks down from heaven and he says, what happened around here? What's going on? And therefore Hashem, as it were, hates it. And therefore it becomes, to somebody who really appreciates that, and has really got the feeling that Hashem is now looking at him and he's bottled completely to Hashem, it becomes in his eyes a toyeva, it becomes an abomination thing. Because ultimately, in its ultimate pneumius, that's what it really is. In the final story, that's what it ultimately is, or it will lead to, without a great deal of difficulty. And therefore, says the Alter Rebbe, the more you feel your bittul to Hashem, the more you feel your sensitivity of Him, then the more you will be sensitive to that which is evil. And he said those things that Hashem didn't mean, since He didn't mean them, that He ultimately hates them. That's what he says in Perikop Beis. And then if you look up in Perikop Beis, he uses exactly the same expression. Kol toyevas Hashem asher sona. But what he's talking about at the beginning, where it all began, how Hashem created it all. And he uses the same expression that Hashem created even something which he considers toyevas Hashem asher sona, what he hates it. Why? Because it's not his real will. That's not what he really means. And here he says, he uses the same lashon, but here he's talking about the Olam HaTachton. He's talking about how it happens to you. So how do you fall into that? By going with clippers and sitrocha. Let's say you fall in. That's the drawing. That's where it's not really what Hashem meant, but no, you say to Hashem, look, I know you don't really mean that, but I got a geschmack in that. What's wrong if I do that? I said, wait a minute, you're going to say different than what I say. You understand? By somebody who's got the outward fear, the more simple fear, that's also bad stuff. Or for somebody who is aware that Hashem is watching him everything, he can't possibly stand for him. He just loses himself. And to him it's a to'eva. So the two purushim come together. The two meanings sort of link together. And therefore, it just shows you how you have to be careful. You have to be tremendously careful. And this whole thing of Sitra Achra is such an amazing idea. Calling it the other side. It's a side, you can go that way, but it's a Sitra Achra. It's the other side. It's the other side of the street. It's not really what Hashem. You're doing things, and you look to be doing them almost in a defensible way. Why not? But that's not what Hashem. That's not what really is the ultimate kavanah. And that in him. From that you can move into Kol Toyevas Hashem. You can move into what is ultimately abomination Hashem Shmo. That's the Alter Rebbe, somebody who's got this more inward fear, the fear of shame, that he's aware of all that, Matter he keeps away from the carcass, and he's completely clean. And notice another thing he says, that they have a yanika, which means a nurturement, and then he says they hold on to you, achizosom. That's also a very interesting point. But first of all, what you do by going after the clippers, not according to Hashem's will, you give them extra food. In other words, that they would exist because Hashem created them. Like we said before, he didn't really mean it, and he didn't want you to mean it either, but he put them there. That's enough for them. Believe me, they don't need any more than that. But if you do their way, then you feed them extra, they gain extra chayas than what they're really meant to have. That's called yanika. Then they have another inyan, that once you feed them more chayas, then they have a hold on you. They stick onto you. They become like a leech. Yeah? But they stick on you, and they want to keep sucking at you the whole time. And they hold at you, and it's very hard a leech is very hard to get off. Once he sticks onto your skin, it's very hard to get him off. Because he began feeling that he can get something from you. It's a good deal. He sticks at you the whole time, and you can't throw him off. And therefore the clippers are like that. But they gain extra nourishment, and then they become sort of ocher. And they hold onto you, and they stick onto you, and they become like a holding force. They hold you down. And that prevents you from improving yourself and going better and higher and edler, because they're holding you. They're like pulling you down, or they're like something in the way. Just imagine a photographer taking a picture of somebody who wants to be a beautiful picture, and there's some big frog or some sucking at this guy. He wouldn't like that. He wouldn't like that to be in the news, or he wouldn't want that to be the picture. But that's what happens with an Avera. And therefore, the Pirkei Avos tells us that just like you do one mitzvah, then you do another, it follows in the wake of another mitzvah. With Avera, it's the same thing. Chas v'shalom. If you do an Avera, then it draws you into another Avera. So because they hold on to you, they pull at you, suck at you, they draw you in. But I mean, it's a very meaningful couple of sentences here. I mean, you could mamish talk for days and days about the whole implication here.